What is going on, guys? My name is Taylor Stuber, and I'm here to break down this 6-game NBA slate on Draftkings Fanduel, and of course, the sponsor of this video, PrizePicks.com. It is Wednesday, December 30th. A quick recap on yesterday. I feel like we got pretty much everything right outside of the Gore and Dragic stuff, and admittedly, he was one of my favorite plays in that 5 to 6K range, and I would take back nothing when it comes to that play. He was in an absolute smash spot, over a 30% usage and over a 30% assist percentage, and massive minute sample over the past year without Jimmy Butler on the court. The Heat and Eric Spoelstra, they just got blown out early. They rested the veterans, and that just comes with the territory of DFS. But we don't dwell on things here. We look to bounce back, and we're always looking forward because it's a new slate every single day, something to take advantage of. But if you guys want to join my community, we are like the quickest growing community. I do everything for completely free. Links are in the description for everything. I have a Discord. We're nearing 1,000 members. We're growing at a rapid rate. Eventually, I will likely cut off that Discord because it's hard to handle that many people if we get any more. So if you guys want to join, make sure to do so now. And I will be live streaming an hour before on twitch.tv/TaylorSuper. That's probably the most important thing when it comes to DFS NBA or NBA DFS. You need to be getting this most up-to-date news, and I'm going to help you do that and guide you in the Discord and in that live stream because when news is breaking, you're going to want to be like yesterday. I liked Dante Exum, but then when I found out he wasn't starting, I was off of him, and I pivoted to guys like Tomas Satoransky or Josh Jackson, who ended up getting the start again. So you guys need to be in that live stream. And then if you guys want to enter for a free $25 via PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, all you have to do is subscribe, like this video, and then comment below with your favorite play of the day. These are the best ways to support me, as well as using my code on PrizePicks.com. TAYLOR. Link is in the description. Receive a 100% match bonus up to $100 instantly in your account. Hard to find any fantasy site that does that anymore. Big shout out to them for having the balls to do that. But if you guys do so, make sure to come over to my Discord. Let me know, and I'll give you my picks for completely free. Yesterday, we smashed the overs on Domantas Sabonis, Jaylen Brown, and Russell Westbrook. They all hit. A couple of people won $1,000, 10x their money last night. So it was a good night over on PrizePicks, but let's just jump right into the slate. So we will start with the Memphis Grizzlies versus the Boston Celtics. Going to go a bit game by game. I think most of you like this content anyways, so rather than me just doing a couple of plays. Maybe in the future I'll end up making 2 videos if I can find the time. But Ja Morant, he's going to be out for a while. He's going to miss this game. Jaren Jackson, D'Anthony Melton, they're also out. D'Anthony Melton, sneakily, one of the more interesting players to be out on the slate, and it matters actually quite a bit because now Tyus Jones is going to fill in for the starter for Ja Morant. And with Melton also out, I mean, we could see Tyus Jones play like 34, 36 plus minutes in this matchup, assuming that the game stays competitive. And even if it doesn't, I think he's going to play big minutes. They just don't have point guards. I guess they could play Bane to an extent, maybe point Kyle Anderson, maybe point Grayson Allen. I mean, they're just really thin. When it comes to the point guard position, who can actually handle the ball. So Tyus Jones, they did raise his price like a lot of these Memphis Grizzlies, but I do think that he plays pretty solid minutes. And 447 minutes since last year with Ja Morant and D'Anthony Melton and Jaren Jackson off the court. He's a 17.8% usage rating, 30.7 assist percentage, 0.94 fantasy points per minute. So if he's playing over 30 minutes, he's a pretty solid play. Other guys on this team I don't mind: Kyle Anderson, Jonas Valanciunas, Dylan Brooks. Pretty solid plays. And if you got guys in that Discord as well, as you're watching this video, my team by team notes, which are just absolutely stacked. Actually, I'll give you a quick preview right here. It's all of these notes. They're completely free in my Discord, so make sure to go check that out. But yeah, mostly on this Grizzlies team, I guess Dylan Brooks to an extent. He is in 451 minutes with Jaren Jackson Jr., Ja Morant, D'Anthony Melton off the court. He has a 33% usage rating in 451 minutes, averaging 1.03 fantasy points per minute. He's looking to shoot the ball a lot more this year, and I don't mind him at that price. More of a GPP play for me, though. I'm moving to the Boston Celtics on the other side of the court. Kemba Walker continues to be out. It's a big pace-up matchup for the Boston Celtics. One of my favorite plays in this game is going to be Jaylen Brown at 7,300. I believe he's 8,000 over on FanDuel. He's flying over there as well. In 136 minutes this year, he's a 28.7% usage rating, averaging 1.28 fantasy points per minute. And actually, I put 2.28 fantasy points per minute. That's off. But each of the last 2 games, Peyton Pritchard and the backup unit, second unit, has really cut into Jaylen Brown's minutes because they've been playing so well off the bench, and so there was no need to bring Jaylen in. They let the second unit just run because they were hot. And so on a normal basis, he's probably going to play 36, 38 minutes like we saw the first 2 games. So I'm going to bet on that to happen again because he has been the most efficient player on this team so far. So if he's going to play 36, 38 minutes, 7,300 is way too cheap for him. And I'm probably going to take the over on him yet again on PrizePicks. I keep doing that, but it worked out yesterday, luckily. But I do like Jaylen Brown. And another thing to note is Brad Stevens did say that we could see a shakeup in the lineup. So I could almost guarantee if there is a shakeup, it's going to be Daniel Tice coming out of that lineup. So we get the Atlanta Hawks. Chris Dunn, Tony Snell, they're out. Danilo Gallinari is questionable. Clint Capella made his debut that last game out, and he played 20 minutes. With Clint Capella being back, that's going to cut into the fantasy production of John Collins because he's not nearly the fantasy producer when he's playing at the 4 rather than the 5. So, and also with Clint Capella being back, his minutes are slowly going to increase. He played 20 minutes that last game. I bet he plays a little bit more this game and a little bit more and a little bit more. But that pushes John Collins back up to the 4, and then that gives less minutes of DeAndre Hunter at the 4, and so he gets pushed back to the 3. So while they're healthy, especially if Danilo Gallinari comes back, these wing players are just going to get their minutes squeezed, and they're probably going to play mostly in between 26 and 28 minutes. So doesn't make them very appealing fantasy players. I don't mind Bogdan Bogdanovic. He's only 4.8K. His role should really never change. He's going to play about 30 minutes a game, even if Gallinari comes back. And like most of his career, he's averaged a fantasy point per minute. So Bogdanovic on a slate that is pretty barren for value, he's a pretty solid play at 4.8K. And one thing I wanted to note is that Trae Young's minutes are directly attached to Rajon Rondo's in the sense, or I guess detached from Rajon Rondo in the sense that they're going to play all 48 point guard minutes in games that are competitive. But since the preseason, Rajon Rondo has a 60% assist percent. So if there's ever a reason that Trae Young's not going to play very many minutes, if he gets in foul trouble, especially for like in games, Rajon Rondo is going to be very, very efficient coming off the bench. Move over to the Brooklyn Nets, where I think 2 of these guys are just way too cheap. But Spencer Dinwiddie's out. He's out for the year, we assume. It's a big pace-up spot against the Atlanta Hawks, who as well has a awful defense. But Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, they're returning after resting that last game out. I'm expecting TLC or Taurean Prince to grab the start as opposed to Caris LeVert. I think it makes a lot more sense for Caris LeVert to come off the bench, which is beneficial in the fantasy sense for all of these players with like Kyrie, Durant, and LeVert. But Kyrie Irving in 95 minutes this year has a 28.4% usage rating, 31% assist percentage, averaging 1.47 fantasy points per minute. He's too cheap at 8.9K, too cheap on FanDuel as well. And then Kevin Durant, 94 minutes this year, 28.5% usage rating, averaging 1.34 fantasy points per minute. I think they're too cheap on DraftKings, especially. We continue to see Jeff Green getting minutes at the 5, which is cutting into the minutes of Jared Allen and DeAndre Jordan, makes them pretty unplayable for me, even though they did drop DeAndre Jordan's price to 4.6K. And then one of the small tidbits that I found when I was looking through everything, this is pretty cool. Caris LeVert, like I said, he should play more minutes, even though he probably will still come off the bench. They're probably going to close with him now, and he should play in that like 28-minute range. But in the 3 games that Durant and Irving were healthy, LeVert played 40 of his 60 minutes with them off of the court. So the majority of his minutes that he's going to be playing are going to be with those guys off the court. In those minutes, in those first three games, he had a 37.5% usage rating, a 72.7 assist percentage. That's an insane number. Obviously, it's not going to stick, but that's an insane number. Even through 40 minutes, averaging 1.5 fantasy points per minute. So I think he's a bit too cheap over here on FanDuel, where they changed his position to shooting guard like it matters. But 6.3K for Caris LeVert, I think, is a very strong play. Move over to the Milwaukee Bucks and the Miami Heat. 227 over under. The Bucks are 6.5-point favorites. We just saw this matchup yesterday. This is the second leg of a back-to-back, and Miami just got their asses busted early. Torrey Craig is questionable this game. Giannis Antetokounmpo continues to do what he does. Last year he averaged about 2 fantasy points per minute. This year he's at about 1.5. So I expect that to increase over the course of the season. But one of the cheaper plays on the slate is Jrue Holiday in 117 minutes so far this year. I mean, in competitive games, these starters are going to be playing like 36 minutes. So this game is projected to be somewhat close at -6.5. I'm in favor of the Bucks. So got to go into this assuming that the game is competitive. Jrue Holiday in 117 minutes has a 21.9% usage rating, 23.4 assist percentage, averaging 1.2 fantasy points per minute, and he's just 6.4K. I think he's entirely too cheap. And then over on FanDuel, he's too cheap as well at 6.4K. Yeah, that's a crazy price tag to me. Absolutely love Jrue Holiday. And then two sneaky plays on the slate is Bobby Portis. So the last 3 games for the Bucks have blown out. Bobby Portis has played 26 minutes in each of those 3 games. He averages 1.05 fantasy points per minute. So if you think this game blows out, play Bobby Portis. I mean, he's a great play if the game blows out. I mean, and even if he doesn't, you're not drawing completely dead because he does average over a fantasy point per minute and should play around 20 minutes regardless. But Brook Lopez, since last year, averages 0.95 fantasy points per minute. So almost as good as Bobby Portis. And he should play around 28 minutes if this game does stay competitive. So they're a pretty similar price. So if you think that this game stays competitive, Brook Lopez is a good play. If you think the game blows out, Bobby Portis is a good play. Move over to the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler is questionable. I mean, the whole entire slate really depends on this Jimmy Butler injury. Luckily, it is on the first slate of games, so we will find the first start of games at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. But if he does indeed miss, Tyler Hero is an absolute lock on FanDuel. It's still a good play on DraftKings at 5.4K, but only 4.5K on FanDuel. That's an embarrassing pricing, so that's going to be an easy play. But just to go over some of the rates of these players since last year with Jimmy Butler off the court. And this is why we like Goran Dragic so much. And these Heat players as a whole, if Jimmy Butler's out, are going to be very, very underowned just because people got burned by all of them outside of Tyler Hero. Goran Dragic, a 30.5% usage rating, 32.3% assist percentage, averaging 1.18 fantasy points per minute. And that's since last year, like the beginning of last year. So large sample size. Tyler Hero, a 23.7% usage rating, 21.9 assist percentage, averaging 1 fantasy point per minute. Bam Adebayo, 22.3% usage rating, 17.5 total rebound percentage, averaging 1.26 fantasy points per minute. We saw that Myers Leonard and Mo Harkless started the last game for him and then only played that one first stint for a couple minutes, literally just a couple of minutes. Don't mind going back to these Miami Heat guys if Jimmy Butler does miss that game, but something we're going to have to monitor. I'll let you guys know in the Discord. I'm sure a lot of you guys will let us know. Then the Hornets versus the Mavericks at 223 over under. Mavericks are 8-point favorites. Cody Zeller is out. Bismack Biyombo is going to continue to start. And it looks like he's going to play 28 to 30 minutes, which is kind of surprising to me. Last year when he was grabbing starts, he was playing like 24 to 26. But if he's going to be playing 28 to 30 minutes, averaging about a fantasy point per minute, I don't mind him whatsoever at 4.8K. And then PJ Washington, his minutes are much, much more secure now. Because he starts at the 4 and then he'll play the backup 5 as well. So he'll come out early. Bismack Biyombo will continue to play. Biyombo will come out and then Washington will come in for him and play those backup 5 minutes. PJ Washington in 85 minutes this year has a 23.4% usage rating, 12.9 total rebound percentage, averaging 1.03 fantasy points per minute, and he does have the highest total rebound percentage on that team. And then the backcourt of the Charlotte Hornets is pretty fluid. Whoever's playing well out of those like 4 guards is going to get the majority of those minutes, or those 3 guards rather. So it's hard to have confidence in them. Make some purely GPP plays for me. Not in cash. I have zero confidence in playing any of those guys. Move to the Dallas Mavericks. Obviously, Kristaps Porzingis is out, but Josh Richardson is questionable. If Richardson misses, it's going to be Trey Burke, going to be Tim Hardaway benefiting the most. If Josh Richardson does play, though, I think he's a great play. Tim Hardaway, his usage goes up from 21% to 32.8% with Richardson off the court. And if this game is close against a horrible Charlotte defense, Tim Hardaway's going to chuck, because the only guys taking shots on this team is going to be guys like Luka Doncic and Tim Hardaway Jr. He should play around 36 minutes if Richardson misses, so I would absolutely love Tim Hardaway Jr. And then Trey Burke is like 3,200. He has been the direct backup for a lot of the time when it comes to Josh Richardson, so he would get more minutes as well. Jalen Brunson perhaps as well. And they like to play a lot of guards, the Charlotte Hornets. So we could see a lot of Trey Burke in this game. If Richardson misses at 3.2K, he'd instantly become one of the better value plays. And then Luka Doncic this year, without as a whole, has a 37.2% usage rating, 12.2 total rebound percentage, 29.3 assist percentage, averaging 1.7 fantasy points per minute. Over to the second to the last game of the slate, the Los Angeles Lakers against the San Antonio Spurs. So it's a 229 over-under, and the Lakers are currently 4-point favorites. But the Lakers went from 6-point favorites to 4-point favorites despite only 31% of the bets being placed on the Spurs, which means that the sharp money is on the Spurs right now, and maybe they think that LeBron is questionable, or that misses this game. He is questionable, as well as Alex Caruso, but he's had a questionable tag next to his name pretty much every game this season so far, and I think we're going to see that going forward. But he was questionable that last game out and ended up playing 36 minutes and was the best player on the court. So take that with a grain of salt. And then Anthony Davis just has not been involved in the offense whatsoever. And Frank Vogel finally said something about it last time and said they need to be better at getting him the ball more. So maybe they make it a point to have the offense run through Anthony Davis this game. He's going to be severely underowned due to recency bias and whatnot. So in GBPs, I think Anthony Davis is a pretty solid play. But LeBron James, he's been good this year, and it looks like he's going to play like 36 minutes. I mean, he played 36 minutes just last game out, so I wouldn't expect anything less moving forward. In 121 minutes, 32.9% usage rating, 14.2 total rebound percentage, 31.3 assist percentage, averaging 1.45 fantasy points per minute. So he's a solid play, a bit cheaper on FanDuel as well. And yeah, the rest of these guys like Schroeder, like Montrezl Harrell, I mean, they're priced as if Anthony Davis and LeBron James are out, or at least one of them are out, so that takes them out of play. Now, some of the best plays on the slate are going to be the San Antonio Spurs. Derek White is out. The Spurs collectively, I think they're just too cheap. DeMar DeRozan played 35 and 36 minutes each of the first two games. Just 31 minutes that last game, but he was in pretty bad foul trouble, so it looks like he's going to play 35-36 minutes a game, and he has a 25.2% usage rating, a 30.4 assist percentage, averaging 1.49 fantasy points per minute, and they dropped his price. His price was rising, and then he got in foul trouble one game, then they dropped his price. Okay, I'll play him at 6.9K. That's a great play. And then DeJounte Murray, we've been all over him this year. Another guy that I just don't understand this price, 6.1K. He had one down game where he scored 27 fantasy points. And in 60 minutes so far, or this year, he has a 23.7% usage rating, 13.2 total rebound percentage, 43.3 assist percentage, averaging 1.38 fantasy points per minute. Should play about 30 minutes. This is an absolutely crazy price tag for DeJounte Murray. I absolutely love him today. Move over to the last game of the slate with the Portland Trailblazers and the Sacramento Kings. We're running on 18 minutes. Shout out to you guys who have watched us all the way through. If you guys have watched it all the way through to this point, let me know in the chat. Maybe I'll give you a little bump in luck when it comes to winning this giveaway. Portland Trailblazers at the Clippers, 227 over under. Clippers are 2.5-point favorites. Man, I'm making all sorts of typos in my notes. Trailblazers, Zach Collins is out. Gary Trent Jr. is questionable, but it looks like Carmelo Anthony is going to return from COVID protocol, so that makes that Gary Trent Jr. thing a bit less prevalent. If Gary Trent Jr. does miss, I think Rodney Hood will take some of his minutes, and Rodney Hood is minimum price, so worth mentioning. But with Melo coming back, it's not going to be the same situation as we saw that last game out. But Yusuf Nurkic and Enes Kanter's minutes, they're going to play all 48 center minutes, and Yusuf Nurkic is only 6.7K. In the bubble, he was averaging well over a fantasy point per minute. And on a normal scenario where Enes Kanter isn't playing out of his mind like he was that last game, it looks like Nurkic should be playing 30 minutes a game. And at 6.7K, that makes him like a top 3 point per dollar play for me on the slate. I absolutely love him. And then Enes Kanter at 4.4K. If you think he continues to play well, they'll just let it ride and let him play like 22 minutes like we saw last game. And we know that he averages well over a fantasy point per minute as well. So that would make him inherently too cheap at 4.4K. think he's a solid GPP value play. But I would not play them together. I would not play Nurkic and Enes Kanter together. Derek Jones, he's a pretty horrible fantasy point per minute player, but he should continue to play around 30 minutes. He is 3.6K, near the minimum. And then CJ McCollum this year, he has taken a big step forward and has really taken the reins over from Damian Lillard. Now, I don't think that continues whatsoever, just if you look at years past, but it is worth mentioning that in 114 minutes this year, he has a 28.9% usage rating, a 31 assist percentage, averaging 1.32 fantasy points per minute. All those rates are larger than Damian Lillard's. And then the last game of the slate, which hopefully we get news on, because this could be the biggest deal on this slate. Kawhi Leonard and Marcus Morris are questionable. Morris hasn't played so far this year, but Kawhi missed the last game and a half due to laceration on his mouth. It was a back-to-back, so I was assuming he was going to miss yesterday, and I was correct on that. And I think he returns today, but if he doesn't, I mean, it's going to be one of the best pivots if you play these guys in the slate game, because a couple of these players are going to benefit in such a big way in a competitive game against the Portland Trailblazers, who play next to no defense. If you think Kawhi Leonard misses, yeah, you're going to get these guys at very, very low ownership like we did last night. And just look at some of these stats. Paul George, since last year without Leonard on the court, Leonard and Morris on the court, 587 minutes at 31.7% usage rating, 22.8% assist percentage, averaging 1.39 fantasy points per minute. Lou Williams, since last year without Leonard and Morris, 1,153 minutes, so a very, very large sample size, double the sample size of Paul George. A 30.6% usage, 32.7 assist percentage, averaging 1.18 fantasy points per minute. So yeah, man, we get these guys at 5.2K, 8.5K, the same prices as yesterday. And Paul George was ready to absolutely snap yesterday, but the game ended up blowing out, so that cut his minutes back and his overall fantasy production because of that. But this has been my breakdown of this slate. Appreciate you guys being here. Best of luck today. I'll see you guys at the stream. Make sure to be there. It's the most important thing. Join the Discord. We're the quickest growing community, and it's all due to you guys. Big shout out to you guys. Best of luck today. And until next time, peace.